What's up, Kings fans? Here we are, another edition of the KingsCast Media Roundtable. Please enjoy.
So speaking of Anze Kopitar, 47 games played, 10 goals, 32 assists, 42 points during the regular season, and 3 goals, 6 assists in 3 rounds of the playoffs, 0 power play goals. Now, still a player who traditionally goes 15, 20 games without a goal, pretty much does that annually. Charles, what is up with Kopitar?
I don't know. You know, in Kopitar, people speculate on whether or not he's injured, but we've seen these kind of things go over the years. He goes into these types of disappearing acts. I think if he doesn't have an injury that maybe crops up here and there, then honestly, I think he might need to talk to a sports psychologist.
Well, he was playing with a knee brace. I guess the question is, how much did that knee brace affect his mobility and affect his game?
I don't think it did.
Something's not right.
The brace didn't, and you can use the brace as a crutch, no pun intended, earlier in the year. But by the time you get to the playoffs, 48 games in, players will tell you they don't even know that it's there anymore. It's like putting on a skate. It's not that big of a deal. And he was getting healthier in terms of the knee throughout the season because when he was asked at the end of the playoffs, are you going to require surgery? Is there any further damage? It was the exact opposite. It was, no, I'm so healthy that the brace is coming off. So the injury was not the factor as much as personally I believe it was possibly what was going on and playing over in Europe. You're playing a different game. So where some guys were playing in North America and they're having an opportunity to play that North American game, he's playing over in Europe in a secondary or tertiary league with bigger ice surface. He's not getting in the conditioning that he needs to be a top-line center in the NHL, and I just think that he was gassed at the end of the season.
But that should have, at his age though, that's something that you'd think would, after the first maybe 2 weeks of the season, he'd be back into the flow and back in shape.
You can't play catch-up. When you're playing 48 games in 99 days, you can't play catch-up. You either have to come into the season and be prepared, and that's why Clifford was so strong, especially, because he was prepared as just
but
a different example.
Richards, if you look at Richards, he clearly wasn't ready at the beginning of the season, but he played himself into shape, and he got fun. And then, but Kopitar, the disappearing acts, and he's a great player, but something's got to be done.
He still wants. He's not Sidney Crosby, but you're going to have to. That's part of his game. You have to accept with the great play that he's going to make him a Selke Award winner someday. With the assists, with the chemistry with Brown, you're going to have to take these stretches because he's not a $9 million player.
But
he's still a 1C.
He wasn't even on Kopitar in this postseason. It wasn't just that he disappeared. It was that he didn't.
His winger was
He never
hurt.
showed up in the first place.
Right, but his winger was hurt too, right?
Maybe
was hurt.
that
Both of his
very well
wingers
may
were
be,
hurt.
but his
Both of them
passes
were
were there was no zip on them. They die after 2 feet. He wasn't taking shots. He
Dustin Brown
wasn't even.
Dustin Brown led the league in hits.
No, I'm talking
also.
about Kopitar.
Okay, I'm talking about winger. So hurt. Sorry.
That top line is a top puck possession line in the league. I mean, that's part of the Kings' game, right? Is other than Chicago, I think their whole game is predicated around that top line, which plays 20 minutes a night, owning the puck, owning the offensive zone. How often was the puck on Kopitar's stick? 5 seconds a shift, and then he'd get rid of it. He didn't go to the middle. He didn't carry the puck. He was
Okay, so he got outplayed by Jonathan Taves. I'll take it.
But I don't think he got outplayed. I don't think he was even trying.
He got outplayed.
He wasn't playing Anze Kopitar hockey. That's the best way to put it.
He got outplayed. He was up against Taves and got outplayed.
But I'll also say this,
It happens in
about
series.
Kopitar, and people can like Kopitar's game, and the stats can tell you a lot of different things, but personally, I think people have too high of expectation for Anze Kopitar and who he is and what he's capable of. And when I did an interview with Marcel Dion a couple years ago, I took some flack for it at the time. Marcel pretty much called him out and said he needs to figure out who he wants to be. Right. And does he want, I'm paraphrasing, I think the players he used were Matt Sundin and Sidney Crosby as just 2 examples. And it's kind of, who does he want to be? Does he want to be one of those really good players or a great player? Yeah. It's up to Kopitar. And he did have a great, obviously, 2012 playoff, along with Brown. He led the team in goals and points. But outside of that, has there really been a long stretch where you could make the argument that Kopitar was one of the arguably 3 to 5 greatest players in the league? No, you can't.
But he has that ability.
No one's arguing
Someone's
that.
got to draw that out of him.
Disagree.
Somebody
draw that out.
Disagree. Doesn't have a great shot. Doesn't have great speed. He's strong. He's smart.
He doesn't need to have great
he's
speed.
not great shot.
I mean, Gretzky didn't have great speed either.
He's got a better shot than Carter. Wait a second. Wait.
He had a great shot until Carter got to town.
Right. So he doesn't have the best shot on the team. He's not the fastest skater on the team. But you want to be the best player on the team.
It's about instincts, though.
I don't know that I've seen somebody more dangerous with a wrist shot from the face-off circles, from the face-off dots, than Kopitar. If he shoots more per game, every time his slump breaks, it's because all of a sudden he starts shooting from the slot. And when he does, it may not be like a Zdeno Chara 109 mile per hour, break the metal in half. But
I'll still take Jeff Carter.
Yeah,
and the Kings are blessed to have Jeff Carter.
I know what you're saying.
I'll take Jeff Carter every day, but when Kopitar
That's maybe the best.
when
wrist shot.
Kopitar gets one shot on goal,
Oh,
in a
absolutely.
game,
Yeah.
he has way too much skill to be just generating one shot on goal a game.
Correct.
He
Correct.
needs to shoot the puck more.
But he's got to find his way to the middle, as you guys were saying.
Right.
He's got to
You know
he
what?
didn't get to the middle against Chicago at all. I didn't see him go to the
He
middle.
didn't even try.
Kopitar,
Right.
what Kopitar
Well, he
was,
might have tried.
the odds of Kopitar,
I'm not here to tell him that he didn't try.
The odds of Kopitar we're used to seeing wasn't present for 34 games towards to the end of the season, from starting the regular season, late in the regular season. That explosive first step, the strength on the puck, taking the puck, even though he didn't do it as much when he was the Anze Kopitar we know, he wasn't taking the puck to the dangerous areas at all. And the player we know, who's usually around, except for the whatever stretches he disappears, was gone for much longer this time around. And great wrist shot, not as good as Carter's, but still a great shot. But he does need to shoot more. Especially when he's quarterbacking the power play, he needs to become more dangerous. Because right now the PK just sits on the passing lane with him. Until he starts taking the puck into the right circle more and actually taking a shot, the D is not going to play him honest.
he's a top 10 center in the league.
He should
That's what
be.
you get.
I'm
I
sorry.
mean, you got Bergeron, Taves, Couture now probably passed him. I mean,
The point
Malkin,
is,
Crosby, there's 5 right there.
The
So
point
now he's
is-
a top 10 player. He's going to get 70 points a season. I'm not sure what you want more. He's just not a 100-point player here.
Right.
Because the offense isn't 100 points.
Would you say he's playing up to his potential, though? Are you saying this is as well as Kopitar can play as what he's playing
He's a
now?
streaky player. You got to deal with it.
You almost just
Who are you
answered-
going to trade him for?
You almost just
I'm
answered
not
your
saying
question,
trade
though,
him.
and that is, it's expectation. People
Right.
expect more out of Kopitar because of what he's paid and because he's the #1 center. That's the reason. I'm not arguing one way or the other, just stating that's
there's
the
30
reality.
#1 centers in the league.
People
He's
want
10.
more. They want more out of their
Yeah.
#1 center. They expect more out of their #1 center.
But to go to John's point, about what Marcel told you, he has the skill to be a top player in the league. But he has to decide.
Yeah, I
what he
think
wants to do.
he
That's
does
the
have to
key.
decide. I agree.
That's the key.
What's so interesting is that when Marcel said it at the time, to me it didn't resonate as much as it does now. There was a lot of validity to what he was saying, but it just, for me, it didn't resonate the way that it did this year, especially when you look back at 2012, because you go, hey, maybe he got it. Well, maybe it wasn't that he got it. Maybe it was just that hot streak, and that this was one of those cool streaks. And if he counterbalances that next year with what he's capable of or typical or whatever.
Or, let's not forget 48 games plus 20, that's 68. When did he go into a cold streak last year? Around that time.
If it's a full
So maybe
season, you may
it's-
have a streak at a different time that
Right.
doesn't affect it. So.
Absolutely.
Right.
He always goes in
I
at the
agree with
midpoint
that.
of the season,
Yeah.
and so when you look
Yep.
at the timing of it, it
But
absolutely
just about right.
correlates this
Yeah.
year.
But
Absolutely.
it also never lasted this long.
That part's
that's
true.
the concern.
And you
That
got,
was the
and as a
scary
player, you got
I
to fight through
calculated
that.
about 34
You got to
games.
fight through that and play harder.
And that's
Play better.
and Dean made that point to us in the conference call at the end of the season.
Yes.
He got extra attention. I don't think any of us can deny that this year, especially in the playoffs. If he wants to be the player we think he can, he's got to learn that
Right.
and fight through it. And that's part of, and in some ways you could still call him a young player, even though he's been in the league so many years now. At least in this team, this team is still learning, even though they won the cup. And even Dustin Brown said, it wasn't, the playoffs weren't over yet. I forget when he said it, but he said, in the way we screwed ourselves because of the way we won last year. It was the learning experience. So maybe after this, maybe this year's
Exactly.
playoff
The
run is
pain
gonna
of this
be-
season
right,
will put them over
is
to
gonna,
the top.
maybe the sacrifice of
Yeah.
what they weren't able to accomplish this year will be a very good lesson learned going forward.
Hey Keith, I think it'll be interesting to talk about Kopitar next year because
Yes.
I think that this coming season, honestly, is a very pivotal
Yep,
year
yep.
in Kopitar's career. He's really at a fork in the road.
This is going to be the pivotal year in his career.
I agree.
Well, listen, the track record on Slovenian players is not.